I got those tarps for the large organization, you know.
Can you say which one what came
Red
through?
Cross.
Red Cross.
The Red Cross, yeah. But there's been times that I'm not going to say, but that I've gone to large organizations requesting something very simple, and it wasn't delivered.
The lack of coordination explains why we were hearing stories that made no sense, like camps that had been supplied with soap but not water, or in the case of Wilna's camp, condoms but not food.
In the military, you talk of the fog of war. In our industry, you talk about the fog of disaster, and coordination is always a challenge. And the cluster system is an attempt to ease some of the burden during those foggy early days of coordination.
Do you think it's been successful? Because I've heard a lot of mixed things about it.
It's been partially successful.
And the first big test of this system was about to happen.
There's going to be a hurricane that hits Haiti, Hurricane Thomas. What preparations have been made in order to ensure that these people are safe? Nothing.
A Category 2 hurricane was supposed to hit Haiti within 24 hours. And the cluster system, the NGOs and the United Nations, told the people in the camps to evacuate.
This is consistent with the what was described recently by Refugee International as a paralyzed disaster response. Virtually no coordination. They talked about what's going to happen after everyone gets killed and all the tarps are ripped. They've had 10 months to prepare for what's going to happen when it hits.
One Miami businessman was so frustrated by this that he flew in to pay Haitians who had homes to provide shelter for 400 children who didn't.
We would just have thought by now that, you know, the big boys, the Clinton Foundations and stuff, were going to come here with, you know, houses for everybody. Yeah. I'm blown away that we're still dealing with this stuff.
I wonder how sturdy the Chinese tents are.
They're not waterproof.
They're not?
Rains now.
12 hours before the hurricane was due to hit, we went back to Camp Carado.
This is Mike.
And they've informed them that they should drop their tents.
Let me.
Sure.
You're gonna this stage that, and with it all that after that will get flat down.
And then what are you supposed to do? Stay in the flattened tent?
Is it crazy? Everybody is scared right now today.
Scared?
Yeah, everybody is scared. Me, I'm not scared. I'm always like that. I'm not scared, I'm cool. They say you to flood the camp and go. Go where? And that's it. It's fucking this it. The problem is me, I got a baby. Fuck.
Wilna wasn't leaving. She said she and her husband couldn't wander the streets during a hurricane with 2 children.
How many of them do you think are going to evacuate during the hurricane?
0.
For once, Haiti got lucky. The eye of the hurricane skirted the island. But then, within days, came the cholera epidemic, brought on by a lack of clean water and poor sanitation. It was exactly the thing that the organization Oxfam America had been working frantically to prevent.
It's not sexy, and it's hard to get donor money for these kinds of things because they're like, what kind of work do you do? And you're like, pee and poo. And what we have to remember is that we have to provide people with the most basic level of services as well. A place to go to the bathroom, to go to the toilet, a way to get clean drinking water, a place to dispose of trash. And why do we do all of that? For their health. What I can say is that Oxfam is reaching 450,000 people. That's over 20% of the earthquake-affected population. That's one agency doing water and sanitation. We're maxed out. We are totally maxed out. I can say personally, everyone is working around 90 hours a week.
By the time the epidemic peaked, cholera claimed over 6,000 lives.
If you look at Haiti, the day before the earthquake and the day after, and today, there's no difference.
Why is that?
Why is it? because the billions of well-meaning dollars that were donated by 1 out of 2 Americans, for example, and all the international funds, nothing's visible.
Dr. Barth Green, a Miami-based neurosurgeon, runs Project Metashare, a well-regarded medical NGO.
I know some of the concerts that were put on in this country, very little came out of them, and they were these huge efforts with wonderful, well-meaning people that, you know, entertainers and industry people that they thought were directing funds into Haiti. But they're not. I can tell you that that most of the money did not leave the United States.
Every NGO is its own kingdom. If, you know, they were to solve all the problems of Haitian people, that would essentially put them out of business, wouldn't it? They're looking for the next disaster. They're not looking for how I keep this family together and protect them against violence in an IDP camp. That's not their role. So they can't spend their money towards that. That money gets banked.
That money gets banked and accumulates interest, which many NGOs roll into a general operating fund. This is business as usual in the aid world, and it's all legal under generally accepted accounting principles.
Well, one of the shortcuts towards an answer to what happened to the money is how much money do you have left? And why are you not spending it on things that urgently need to be done?
We raised over $13 million in the first year after the earthquake, and we spent exactly that much.
CRS received about $180 million.
$482 million to date.
We spent $65 million in fiscal year 2010, which included most of the first year after the earthquake. And then for this year, we expect to spend $93 million.
So far, we've spent or have under contract to spend a little over 2/3, a little over $300 million.
10 months after our first visit, we went back to Haiti to see the result of all these hundreds of millions of dollars spent.
I haven't gone to the camps and walked through, and I was there 10 months ago, and then I went back. It looks like those people are still in pretty bad shape.
The numbers, the statistics will tell you that things are much improved in the sense that there used to be about 1.5 million homeless people. Now there are 600,000.
That's not exactly true. The UN estimates that only 1/3 of the Haitians made homeless by the quake remain in the camps, but the UN never counts the people in unofficial camps, and it doesn't count the people in camps of fewer than 500. So no one really knows exactly how many people still need help. But Luke King, Country Coordinator for Catholic Relief Services, or CRS, said things were going pretty well.
If you judge things by simply appearances, I can understand why someone would say it was a paralyzed relief effort. But if you look at it more scientifically, you look at real, true indicators of people's well-being, morbidity and mortality from disease, that actually went down after the earthquake response. There were no major outbreaks of disease except for the cholera outbreak.
The conditions in there are extremely difficult, but the basics of food, minimal shelter, which is a tarp for most people, food, water, access limited to health care, those basics do exist for a large percentage of those people.
Première question, je poser parce que je connais la Croix-Rouge. Surtout pour la Croix-Rouge américaine, ils ont une force comme dans le côté que pour venir des peuples avec des miniens qui victimes avec ces là. Et me la Croix-Rouge pas jamais fait aucune intervention là.
Camp Kenando, 20 months after the quake. The camp leader wasn't exactly happy to see us.
Ils étaient là en novembre.
Okay. Bon, ONG nek man passe, on passe là, faire photo, faire une balle en pile, caméra, on prend celle ça fait. Situation plus mal que mois de novembre là. Pour moi ONG écrase vinn case pays à plus. Pour moi même en tant que un dirigeant, et écraser vinn ka pays a raison. On regarde ONG a on tendre des gros fortes sommes cob qui nan men yo pour venir de les gens qui plus démunis et ouais pendant apparition dans pays a yo vinn plus pauvre.
Unbelievably, conditions in the camp, including the latrines, had gotten worse.
Parce que avec un côté pas moyen de l'eau pour boire, ou pas moyen pour faire besoin physiologie, ou pas moyen de logement social, pas rien du tout. Et ressources humaines pas rien du tout, situation vraiment compliquée là pour nous. Dépasser.
Human development takes time. People say aid, they think it's just dropping off food or delivering water. That's really not what I think what most organizations are about. It's really about human development and investments in education, investments in infrastructure, investments in healthcare. These things take a long time.
And meanwhile, millions of dollars in NGO spending has created a whole new economy in the disaster zone.
You're seeing rents skyrocket. You know, the UN themselves say that like 300%, that rents have gone up since the earthquake. You can call it non-profiteering, you can call it disaster capitalism if you like, but that's what's happening right now in Haiti.
Yes, that's normal. But I saw in a place like Sierra Leone, for example, where I stayed for quite some time, after 11 years of civil war, everything was broken. And one of the first things that got repaired after the aid caravan moved in there was the local golf course.
Go tonight at some fancy restaurant, make it tall. You are going to see.
That night, the aid caravan wasn't too hard to find. They were at a restaurant right across the street from a camp.
For $72.
The aid industry takes care of itself too, not only with making sure that they get the most donor money as an organization, but also to make sure that they can have a good life.
So we're sitting maybe 50 feet away from a camp. We're sitting in a restaurant where there's escargot in the menu for $7 US. And if you want a New York steak, if you're missing New York, you can have that too. That's $34. And there's also lobster salad. That's $15.50. That's an appetizer.
It is a lack of respect that you show people, not only for all the promises that you are breaking, but also for that stuff, also for the huge gap between those people living in camps right across from really expensive restaurants.
A group of foreign supporters, many who come to help, who come from civil societies that are accustomed to a certain way of life. They're not gonna go and forage for food in an IDP camp. They're not gonna empathize with individuals who are sleeping on concrete when they have the budget within their organizations to stay at a hotel. When you become that desensitized, even though you're doing good work, it doesn't occur to you that when you go to purchase a steak and you have to walk over everyday Haitian who's laying on the ground, how that makes that person feel in terms of their own humanity.
I'm wondering if it's an image question. I'm just wondering if the community here is conscientious of the fact that when they walk into these restaurants, that they may be offending the people they're supposed to help.
I do think we need to be sensitive to it. And I think that's really all I can say about it. We need to be sensitive to it, while also understanding that life is going to move on. People are going to want to eat. People are going to want to relax from time to time. But we should be sensitive to it.
And it is a lot of money, because it's not just private donations that are flowing to the NGOs, but public funds from as many as 70 donor nations.
That official donor money brought together by the more than 70 donor governments amounts to yearly $130 billion. It is a lot of money. And then on top of that is all the money that you and I take out of our pockets to support our favorite charities with. United Nations once did an attempt to count how many international aid organizations there are competing for a piece of all that money available. And the United Nations stopped counting at 37,000. So you have this ant's nest.
And in the case of the United States, that taxpayer money goes to that ant's nest with strings attached. In fact, experts say, most of it is spent before it ever leaves the States.
Delco for the generators, to Ford for the SUVs, to Dell for the computers.
This is called tide aid, a phenomenon well known in the aid world.
For example, food aid. America is the biggest donor of food aid in the world, but the bulk of that food aid is American grain. So America, as the food aid donor, will not allow organizations to buy cheap African grains, which would be better and quicker, etc. No, they want you to buy American grain, ship it to Africa on an American ship, and then distribute it by American organizations. So the business of the food aid, the transport and the packing and the growing and etc. is all American business. It's employment and American economics. That is tide aid.
There's a saying in the aid world that if you accept USAID funds, all the money goes home. That might make sense when what's needed can't be found locally, but in the case of Haiti, almost no money has gone to Haitian companies, and nearly 93% of USAID funding went to contractors in Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C.
That last number is not specific to Haiti because for years, the United States has sent more of its foreign aid money back to itself than any other donor nation.
93% of U.S. AID funds come back to the U.S. 93%. The idea is our taxpayer dollars should benefit us.
Like everything in life, it comes down to politics. But if you would buy the grains in Africa, you could buy, for the same money, you could buy much more grain. And also, it wouldn't take you 3 months to get it to Africa. By that time, people are dead.
By their own accounting, the Red Cross still has over $100 million sitting in the bank. CRS has tens of millions. They both say this money isn't for relief, it's for long-term projects.
Well, hello. Today is the long term. Let's start. Let's do these things.
Dr. Green's Project Medishare has operated in Haiti for nearly 20 years, among other programs, educating Haitian doctors, nurses, and caregivers. But the mission changed with the earthquake.
I called up a friend of mine. I called up a lot of friends of mine who had airplanes, and they said, "Are you crazy?" And I called up one friend of mine who was crazy, and he got on his plane the next morning, and we had no intelligence about what would be waiting for us. And we stepped off the plane into the UN compound at the end of the airport, and there were just hundreds of people dying, bleeding, arms, legs missing, crushed, all of them crush injuries.
This effort ultimately became the only critical care hospital in Haiti. But despite the fact that there is still relief money both in the pipeline and in the bank, Project Medishare's operation here is in trouble.
And we were in the right place at the right time, and we gave wonderful medical care, but the truth is that we were always on a very tight string, whether we were going to be open another day, a week, or month. The Red Cross came in and said, okay, we'll give you, 6 months, and then it was 12 months.
At this point, the American Red Cross, we have spent or are under contract over 2/3 of the money. The other third has been fully allocated. We feel a need to build back better, put people in permanent homes. So the rest of our money has been allocated.
Now, this December, we're going to be closing our hospital.
Dawn at Camp Carrido. It is our second trip to Haiti. 20 months after the quake, there is visible progress. CRS has built 800 transitional shelters. There are 14,000 people in this camp, but CRS says they can't build anymore. They say there isn't enough space to add more shelters and still stay within the international standards. But when it comes to the latrines, those same standards are being blatantly ignored. There are only 50 in this camp, or one for every 280 people.
We've built some emergency latrines and some permanent latrines.
We've partnered with Catholic Relief, so we're paying them to run a system. It's essentially, use an American term, an 800 number, where Haitians can call a sanitation company to clean out the latrines. They're supposed to be regularly cleaned. If they don't, then they can call this number, and that's with American Red Cross funds. All sorts of American Red Cross dollars and other Red Cross and Red Crescent organizations go to not only building the latrines, but maintaining them.
Mon ki responsable ale le Colline, mwen te rele li, ite di mla vin wes de ka edem pou ta fe debarase yo. Mais
He's contacted the person, in charge of this.
And then, just beyond Camp Caradeux, we found Wilna one last time. She put on her best dress when she saw us, and we saw she and her husband had another child on the way. "20 miles